Greetings, YouTube. It's me, Marquita R4, once again. Today is July the 19th, 2024, and I'm currently at the park once again, just enjoying nature and just relaxing in the things of God. But I wanted to take time to come on and actually share another part of my testimonial with you all regarding the one that I did on yesterday. This testimonial will actually start with the one-bedroom apartment. First of all, I just want to say prayerfully, y'all are having a blessed day, because I know I am, and if you're not, I will be praying for your day to become blessed, okay? But going forward, I just want to share a testimonial relating to the one-bedroom apartment that I had moved into when I lived in El Paso, Texas. And I lived in that apartment from June of 2021 up until March of 2023. Okay. Now, the entire time I lived there, I experienced very strong gang stalking. Okay. In the complex that I lived in, as well as in that specific subdivision. And one of the gang stalkers lived directly next door to me. His name was Jose. And Jose actually had been assigned by my landlady and her husband to receive the tenants' rent whenever they would be out of town. And so he also had keys to everybody's units as well. Okay. There also was a second gang stalker that lived directly across the crosswalk from me. His name was Anthony. And so the way I had found out that Anthony was a gang stalker was he actually had tried to cozy up to me in a way that was deceptive, such as he felt like he had been called by God and he already knew I was in ministry. So he wanted to converse with me about things biblically, or either try to figure out what he could find out as far as data mining me, relating to my family history. He would ask me personal questions such as, things about my sibling, where I'm from, just all this stuff that he really didn't have no business knowing. So, I was very vague with my responses to him, of course, but there were times where I would share certain things or whatever. And he knew that I loved discussing the Bible, so that was his way of trying to cozy up to me. But I would later realize that he was a gang stalker, Also, I remember some of my Amazon packages that would be delivered to my door, they would be torn open. Some of my mail actually would be lost, and coming that was supposed to come to my mailbox and stuff like that. And also, they had started sending like all these different strange people's mail to my mailbox, and stuff like that. And also, I remember there was a lady who lived on the opposite end of the building who I actually ended up befriending to the extent that I would keep her baby for her sometimes. She had a little son. And so I would babysit him for her sometimes when she would go run errands and stuff. And so she had moved from the East Coast also. And she also was a very outspoken individual who had exposed corruptivity in the state that she moved from. And so she and I, we had become acquainted and had gotten real close, almost like sisters, because we realized that we both had been targeted and stuff. And so there were times where she would tell me that when she would be going somewhere, they would have helicopters and drones following her and stuff like that. And then they would have cars boxing her in on the freeway and stuff, trying to make her have a wreck and flip her SUV over and stuff like that. And then I remember one time we had went out to get some pizza and stuff, and some cars had tried to box her in while I was riding with her. So we had experienced, some similar things, relating to the targeting and stuff like that, and then we were doing research on the gang stalking tactics and government corruptivity and things of that nature. And then I also was doing street ministry every day, just about, and so what I would do is I would, construct these prayer packets where I would be discussing political stuff, and I would put Bible scriptures with it that would talk about the times that we are living in, which is basically the last days and stuff like that. And so I would go into the streets and do street ministry, and I would feed the homeless. There was a lot of homeless people in that neighborhood too. There was a lot of drug addicts there. There was a lot of prostitution going on there. And there was a lot of corruptivity in government that I had later found out and stuff. And so they literally had all these sexual predators stalking me and harassing me and stuff like that. And a lot of the church leaders in that subdivision were actually involved, because there was a few church leaders who actually were ex-military and who were ex-prison workers, okay? And so they felt like I was a threat. They felt like I was coming into the neighborhood doing street ministry, trying to take their congregation from them, basically. And that was not the case at all. I was just doing what the Holy Ghost was leading me to do. And so, in any event, I realized too that a lot of people from the churches, were sent out to try to literally run over the homeless people and try to do some kind of damage to them. So it was like a lot of the people who went to church every Sunday in that subdivision, they professed that they love Christ, but in actuality, they really wanted all the homeless people dead or locked up in an insane asylum or put in a psych ward or just wanted them jailed, and so basically that's what I found out, and so before long I was getting stalked in and out of grocery stores, in and out of restaurants, anywhere I went. If I got on the bus and went to the mall, they would send people to the mall to follow me, to stalk me and stuff like that. So I would just rebuke them, I would put them on video, put them on blast and stuff like that. And the man whose house, the family that I had initially moved to El Paso to stay with for the 2 weeks that I had stayed with them, he had a big role to play in it, as well as the ex Texas State Trooper who was a Marine, that was supposed to be an ordained minister or whatever. They were in cahoots with the Northeast El Paso Police Precinct, who I had to rebuke because while living there, I also found out that they had hired a police officer who had been working there for some years, and he had a history of pedophilia as well as voyeurism. So he had been under investigation already because he had been recording the female co-workers in the female co-workers locker room and shower room inside the Northeast El Paso precinct, okay? And so I contacted the district attorney to complain about it, to see what they were going to do about it, because he needed to be fired, in my opinion. And so that is when the gang stalking and stuff, it increased, but the only difference is the police didn't send out a bunch of foot soldiers to do the dirty work anymore. The police literally started doing it themselves. I even reached out to the Department of Justice and, filed a complaint with them, but quite naturally, later on, I would find out after doing all my research with the gang stalking, community-oriented policing and tactics that they do and stuff, they're involved in it. They're in on it too, so yeah, there was no help there whatsoever. And so, in any event, I ended up hearing things in the crawl space, and so did my neighbor who lived on the opposite end of the building. Her name was April. She heard like noise above her head when she would be in her bedroom and stuff, and I would hear like it sounded like somebody was dropping golf balls and rolling them across the floor or whatever, and just creaking sound, clicking, popping, and ticking and knocking and all this kind of stuff. We heard that quite a bit, and I recorded some of it or whatever, and then I would bring it to the landlady's attention, and her and her husband, they would act dumb as a box of rocks. One minute they would say it's no crawl space up there, and then the next minute when I talk to them face to face, the landlady is admitting that there is all of a sudden a crawl space. So yeah, it was just a lot of witchcraft and manipulative tactics, and she was caught in some lies and stuff like that. So yeah, my landlady and her husband at that time, they were in on it. To my disappointment, they were in on it. But in any event, I ended up relocating, by the grace of God, and also I remember when I got ready to move my belongings out of storage, as far as like moving into that apartment and stuff, the man whose family I came from, he was very livid and very vindictive and malicious because he was mad because I had used his wife. I had asked her to help me move my belongings out of storage when I first got my apartment. And so him and his son, they really wanted to be the ones to try to move my stuff in. But, due to his belligerent behavior and all the witchcraft in his household, I didn't want him and his son coming nowhere near my apartment. And like I had told his wife when she had asked me about it, I had told her, I said, no, honey, because my apartment, wherever I live, wherever I lay my head, it is holy ground. Because I make sure I anoint everywhere I live, no matter how much demonic activity transpires in the environment that I live in. I always still go forth and be obedient to the Holy Ghost, and I anoint where I live. So holy ground, I ain't finna deliberately allow no demonic people up in there. I'm just not doing that, and so that's really what that man was mad about. And so that's why every day that I lived in El Paso, every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I was dealing with gang stalking stuff, okay? Now, the blessing part about me being there was the fact that, I was able to just spend that one-on-one time with God and get, enhanced spiritual gifts and stuff like that related to my prophetic dreams and visions and things of that nature. And then on top of that, it was revealed to me the man who was a hitman who actually had my mother murdered. He's serving time in prison, and he has been there for some years, but he also was connected to several other murders, and I remember when I was 2 years old, the first word curse that God helped me overcome and helped me to break was the doctor said that I wouldn't live past the age of 9. And it was interesting to me that actually my mother was murdered when I was 9 years old, okay? But my family was lied to by a relative who was a United States Marshal, which was my uncle. He lied and told my relatives on all sides to keep their lips zipped about my mother's death, So we were lied to and told that she committed suicide when indeed she was murdered. And my uncle knew all the details behind it. And he was telling everybody to just, not speak on it because it's more to it than we think, okay? And so, yeah, I dealt with that, and I was going through the healing process. God was taking me through the healing process of that while I was in that apartment. And then when I decided to move, I decided to apply for a 3-bedroom house, which when I initially contacted this owner of the house, he had told me that, I wasn't a good fit because he had looked online at the articles about me and he saw the charges against me. And so he basically discriminated against me for a minute, relating to me moving into his house. But later on, and then after I got off the phone with him regarding that, about moving in, he had told me, that he didn't think I would be a good fit because of the charges that were against me that he saw online. And so I got off the phone with him and I cried and I called my adopted aunt and I told her, I said, please pray for me because I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know, I might end up homeless and stuff. So I had started giving my stuff away to the Salvation Army, some of the furniture that I had, and then some of the electronics I had, I actually sold them to one of my neighbors. And so, after I got off the phone with my adopted aunt and we had been praying and stuff, the man called me back and he told me, he said, look, I talked to my pastor and he advised me to let you move in. And so I moved in. Now, when I moved in, I entered into a rest with the Lord. Holy Ghost was telling me to enter into a rest. So I didn't do any street ministry while I was living in his home, okay, the 3-bedroom home. And I was there. And he had told me that he initially he wanted to rent it to somebody, because he would be gone on the road 2 to 3 weeks at a time, and even when he came home, he actually would be over to his parents' house because he was a divorced man who had visitation with his children at his parents' house at that time. And so he just wanted somebody who was dependable, reliable to be there, and take care of the house and stuff like that and look out for it. And so that's what I did, So he rented the house to me from March 2023 up until June of 2023. And one night, I remember it was April the 20th, one day rather, April the 20th, Officer Garcia from the Northeast Precinct, he decided to stop by and he was looking for my landlord, but he didn't want to come out and say just that. He wanted to try to be slick and try to talk to me, to try to get me to tell him who I was and stuff like that. And like I know the laws, if I haven't committed a crime, I don't have to tell anybody who I am, okay? And so that's exactly how I handled him when he came to the door. Now, later on that night, about 4:29 a.m., that next day, which was that next morning, which was April the 21st, 2023, he actually sent Officer Castillo, who brought 3 male officers with him and then 1 female officer. They come to the door lying, talking about they had a warrant for my landlord, right, for his arrest and all this kind of stuff. And then they literally tried to SWAT the house. They tried to bust the window out of the first bedroom in the house, okay? And so when I asked them, I said, well, you have a warrant? I said, who you have a warrant for? So then they told me they had a warrant for my landlord. And so I said, well, can I see it? They said, well, no, you can't see it. And so they wanted to come in the house. I said, no, you're not coming in unless you show me a warrant. And then so they were like, we can't show you the warrant because the warrant is not for you. And then so I said, well, no, I'm not about to let you in. Bottom line, you can't come in. And so I went next door and I also knocked on my neighbor's door. His name was Oscar, okay? Now when I initially knocked on the door, Oscar didn't come to the door, but he came in toward the end. Okay, he came out toward the end and he witnessed the police leaving the driveway, and he saw them laughing too, so I knew it was just it was all part of gang stalking. They just want to play these vengeful, vindictive, immature games because they are emotionally unintelligent, and spiritually inept. They just wicked. They just soulless people. And so I call it the Babylonian temple, the Northeast El Paso precinct. That's what I call it. I call it the Babylonian temple because they are some wicked people. And so I'm going to sign out now and just leave y'all with that information. And then I will probably do another testimonial another day and time. Y'all have a blessed day. Be blessed and stay blessed because I know I will. Another thing I wanted to add to this video is the fact that the ex-Texas state trooper was also a philanderer as well as an alcoholic. And I guess he didn't want me to see that side, by me being spiritually gifted
relating to prophetic visions and dreams and things of that nature, but that was something else that was actually revealed to me when I lived in that one bedroom apartment in El Paso. And it was also revealed to me that the apartment complex had like what I call 4 dummy apartments in it. Okay. There was a total of 14 units in the entire complex. And so when I confronted the rent manager and her husband regarding the 4 empty apartments that were there, she informed me, or they informed me, should I say, that they were just keeping equipment to work on apartments that needed to be fixed at that time. And I knew that was a lie from the pits of hell. And so what ended up happening was one day I came home, and out of the 2.5 years that I lived there, there was only one time that I saw an individual go into and come out of one of the dummy apartments, which was located in the apartment that was next door to the gang stalker named Anthony's apartment. And that apartment also had a Ring doorbell on it as well, which would always record me and my neighbor April's comings and goings. You know, whenever she would go to her unit or whatever, or leave her unit, she was recorded. Every time I left my unit and went somewhere and came back home, I was recorded, you know. And so basically we were being targeted and constantly watched 24 hours a day, 7 days a week or whatever, and we were not committing any crimes whatsoever. We were just simply living our lives and being obedient to what God had called us to do, you know. And so yeah, the apartment manager and her husband, they were in denial regarding that as well. Now, also, there was a revelation relating to the man who had my mother murdered. He also was connected to spiritual wickedness in high places relating to people such as Richard Nixon and several other political figures. So that's why he was, you know, able to get away with the murders as long as he did, you know, even though he's serving prison time right now and everything, he was able to get away with murdering a lot of people, you know. And so, yeah, God is just still continuing to take me through the healing process relating to the facts surrounding my mother's murder, and the fact that this man is still living. He's still able to get up, have 3 hots in a cot every day. You know, he's able to have visitors. You know, if he has any children, he's able to visit with them, or if he has any grandchildren, he's able to have time, you know, spent with them. And so, yeah, you know, God is just really taking me through the healing process, still, you know, dealing with that. And but through it all, I'm still grateful to God, and I'm just going forward, being obedient to the Holy Ghost in all that I do. So, once again, you all signing out now. Y'all have a blessed day, because I know I will. Bye bye.